I can't resist making some final remarks. This has been an extraordinary 3 days. Frankly, when we named this conference, the assets movement at its moment, building the save and invest economy, that was a bit aspirational. But in this conference, after these 3 days, I think what was aspirational is a fact. We are a global movement. We are not going away. This is our time. And we are building and will build the save and invest economy. And we will lay the foundation, the plumbing, in the next 2 years in this country. At the center of this movement were the 1,000 people gathered in this room, the 10,000 people back home that they're in touch with. This is the most diverse movement I know of, diverse by age, by race, by class, by gender, by disability and ability, by sector, nonprofit, for-profit. We have now financial institutions fully engaged here, developing the products that we will need to bring financial stability and opportunity to all of our people. It is across the life cycle. It has gone from being about IDAs to being about learning, saving, investing, investing and protection. There were fissures, frankly, sometimes in the previous 10 conferences, as you would expect through any movement growing and learning its way, as we sometimes bumped into each other. I saw none of those fissures in this conference. We are together. I think what we recognize is our diversity, even our disagreement, are our strength, that we need each other. None of us could understand this whole world, let alone do it. We need each other. Let us stay together. It is our time. We have been building to this moment for 30 years. We know the techniques. I think as you saw the 60 sessions, the 200 speakers, and the 800 other people who could have as easily been speakers, you see the richness that we have. This innovation will go on. These have been the toughest times I can remember and in my life, and yet it has not held back the growth of this movement. Now our issues are at the top of the national priorities, whether that issue is savings, once thought a luxury, now a necessity, unemployment, entrepreneurship, job creation, inequality, poverty, educational completion. We are in danger of being the first generation to be more educated than our children. Sustainable home ownership, even deficit solution. We offer a major solution and a way of addressing all of those key issues. Now is the time to create the save and invest economy. I believe that this recovery will be led by savings and investment. Now you hear that in this recession, 70% of our economy is consumption, and then that leads people, mostly economists, to assume that we need to incentivize consumption. But what's to say, it's as if that 30% goes on a shelf somewhere. It's just spent in a different way, in a more effective way. It is what buys us our future. And maybe that 30% should be 35% or 40%, and maybe we'll have to wait a little longer for the returns to accrue, but they will be a multiple of what we invest. I think we know now how to build the plumbing and the foundation of that. 3 key proposals, 2 of which are fully backed by the administration and most people in Congress, that appeal, not that it's always an advantage, across the political spectrum. The expanded savers credit that will bring a match to 50 million low and moderate income households, auto IRA that will dump everybody into a savings piece, and the final piece, child savings accounts, so that the savings platform is truly universal and lifelong. I would ask each of you at this federal policy moment to find time to spend an hour a month, maybe Carol will ask for more, but to lend your voice to taking advantage of the opportunity that's in front of us to build the plumbing, lay the foundation. Some folks will argue that this is too expensive. Take all of those programs together, add a new entrepreneurship tax credit, if you will, and it comes out to $10 billion a year, less than 2.5% of the asset building budget. I appreciated what Jonathan Mintz said this morning about embedding this in the anti-poverty system, but I think we sideline ourselves if that's all we do. I think we embed ourselves in the investment system of this country, in the way we invest, in the ability of individuals and families to build their own wealth, and with that, the wealth of this nation. In fact, so that we can contribute to the deficit situation, I think we could take that $400 billion we spend, cut it by 25% or 50% or 75%, reduce the deficit over 10 years by $1, $2, or $3 trillion without affecting savings at all, redistribute, again, $10 billion a year toward investment in the 60 to 80% of American families who are left out right now of our asset building budget. Finally, I think the strength of an economy, the way an economy is built, is in the talents and energies of all of our people. Gloria Steinem talks about how at the founding of the Republic, we the people meant white male adult landowners who are the only ones that can vote. And the story of our democracy has been the expansion of that group. I think there is a parallel, an economic parallel to that. The policies in our history that created widespread, long-term, significant economic growth were policies like the Homestead Act, the GI Bill, the 30-year mortgage, which brought economic opportunity into the purview of the middle class. Now, each of those policies left out bunches of groups and are responsible for the inequities that Melvin and Tom talked about in the first session. But our next set of policies don't need to be exclusive and discriminatory in that way. I think we need to listen to Cameron and Sesta and Kimberly and Crystal, the foster kids who had no chance and yet found a way to save and invest in themselves and their futures. We can't go forward writing off people, whether they be foster kids or people of color or women or youth. We now need to invest. We need the productive energies of all of our people. One of the greatest people that I've ever known died this spring. Wilma Mankiller, excuse me, the first woman principal chief of the Cherokee Nation, who spent her life reaching out to people who didn't have much of a chance and lifting them up and enabling them to do great things. In her final message, she said, "Never turn away from people because of what they have or how they look. If you saw me at 8 years old, you would have never thought I could become what I did." I have felt Wilma every day. The day she died was the first day the trees fully sprouted, and I have felt her around in nature and guiding us. Now is our time. As Bobby Kennedy said, if not us, who? If not now, when? Thank you all so much for being part of this.